Hi everybody, today I'm meeting Colin Adams. He's the director of Brickworks Community Centre based in Islington. Colin was awarded an MBE in 2009, but he has played an inspirational role within the community for several decades. Today Colin has agreed to take a few minutes out of his busy schedule to talk to me about what he does and why he does it. Let's go meet him. Hi Colin, thanks for coming to speak to me today. How are you?
I'm okay, thank you.
Good. What do you do for a living?
I'm a director of a community centre based in North Islington that provides a range of different services from a nursery, employment agency, after school club and various kinds of activities from arts and craft to Zumba.
And what's one thing that you love about your job?
What I love about my job is making a difference to people, giving them support in times when people are quite vulnerable, especially now, because we run a food bank, so we give out to in excess of about 150 people a week. But we help people with a variety of different things, from photocopying to making phone calls where they don't have the confidence to do that. So what I love is that I can go home and at the end of the day say I make a difference.
If I wanted to get into a job like yours, what advice could you give me? And what's one thing that someone has said that's really stuck in your head?
Some of my background is my mum used to run an old people's home, so I used to volunteer at an old people's home to help out. So I would say one of the first things is just find out if you really like it, because you may have a job that you wanted to do when you were younger, and just practice, volunteer. I'd say volunteer and do loads of different aspects so you find out what you're good at and what you like to do as well. And I think the biggest thing that someone ever told me is just there's no straight path to get to where you are. There's always kind of many stops and turns, but just always make sure that you have that at the bottom of your mind. Don't let anybody tell you can't do something.
What age range do you work with?
We have a nursery, so we pick up from 2 all the way to people to 82. So we go from cradle to grave policy. So my nursery picks up from people from 2 years old. We provide affordable childcare because it's not a private nursery, because we want to make sure that people can afford. Because that's the biggest issue that people have about working is childcare if you're obviously a parent. And we have elderly. I have people that come in this same room and work with Salad as well and do tap dancing, street dancing, anything. So we go all the range up from people, from really young to really old.
So you talked about volunteering in a nursing home before you got this job. How did you know that you'd like to work with children as well? I
think when I was younger, I wanted to be a social worker. I always wanted to work with people. And I thought volunteering, I helped my mum at the old people's home. I also helped out at a kind of homeless shelter when I used to live in East London. And I kind of thought I was quite good with people. I thought I was quite okay. I then promptly went and worked in the Department for Education and did something completely different. But the money was better. And I think over the years, I wanted to make a difference. And so it wasn't about the money for me. It was making me feel that it was something that I really wanted to do. And I think the biggest advice, apart from people saying pursuing your dreams and making sure is that people said you need to make a choice about what makes you happy. And I think this job made me feel different and happy, as opposed to the other job, which was much double what I get here. But it didn't make me feel fulfilled, working in Westminster, so this did.
I definitely agree that you should do what makes you happy. Out of all of those moments, what has been the best so far?
I spent my career. Do you know what? Thinking about it, it's when I got my MBE and I took my mum and dad to Buckingham Palace, because my mum's been telling people for many years back home in Guyana, where I come from where my parents come from, that I worked. They just point out and said he works there, and I said, Mum, no, I don't really work in the Houses of Parliament or work in Buckingham Palace, but it was a royal bus for her, because coming from the Caribbean, the Queen and the Commonwealth was a really big thing. So for her to go through those gates and to be filmed when she went through, I know it was really big for her, because you go through the same gates as you do the public, so you go through those gates, walk into Buckingham Palace, and I think that was the biggest thing. That just made her proud, and that made me happy, because that's what I wanted to do. My mum was my greatest inspiration in life. Yeah.
So you spoke a little bit about the job that you had before. Could you tell me a little more about that? And also, have you had any other jobs leading up to this one?
So I was a career civil servant. My last job before I left here, I've been doing this job about 11 years. I used to run the Equality and Diversity Unit in the Department for Education. So I used to look about how education policy impacts on different racial groups. It's fascinating in terms of men and women, just to gender, but then specifics in terms of different groups and how people learn and how they fare in school. And really, and we need to get it right. We still get, have people that go through 9 years through the education system and can't read or write properly, and that's a scandal to me. That's a scandal which should never happen. So I was doing that kind of job, and I was doing stuff around equality and diversity, looking at bias, looking at why progressions, different groups weren't progressing in the education system as well they are. And then I trained as a youth worker. So when I first initially came here, I used to run the youth project. God, and I've been doing youth work about 20 odd years. I used to work for Croydon Youth Service. I used to run a youth club in Thornton Heath, and then when I moved back to East London, I ran my friend who was working here at the time. She asked me to come out of retirement in terms of youth work and come and help her run the youth project. And from then I just progressed to working here full time. So I worked for central government for many years, and that was great. I mean, that was great. I won't ever knock that, but I wanted to come on, and this was the first local job I've ever been in, so it was great. Yeah. So, that kind of gave me the background, and I knew I wanted to work with people, and I knew that people, depending on their background, can either go up or go down, depending on the interventions they have in their life. So I wanted to intervene more in people's lives to give them that support that I think they needed.
What are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced so far in your career?
Ooh. I think just in central government, the progression, and I always say to people, that was really interesting. I went to the Department for Education, time Secretary of State was Ed Balls, and I was running the volunteering programme. We had a meeting, and I said, everybody who works in the education department needs to go out and understand how their policies impact on people on the ground. And the frustration was going to talk to some people. Some people didn't like children, and I said, why are you working in the Department for Education? So again, that was kind of the challenge at the time. Here, I think the challenge is confidence for some people. We give some people information and they don't follow it the way through. So sometimes we have to literally hold people's hand. And the frustration is, for me, is there's still pockets of our community that don't engage as much as they should. Maybe they don't know we're around, maybe they don't have the confidence to go through the door. So again, I think that's really important. And I just think we could get to more people that are really vulnerable. Because in Islington, I don't know if you know the background, I think we've got the first child poverty rate in the country. So people only see Arsenal and Upper Street, but we've got 8,500 children living below the poverty line here.
That's really interesting actually, because I live in Angel, and where my estate is, it's right in the middle. One side has become so gentrified, and the other side is Caledonian Road, where the gangs are still running around. I was walking back from the town hall the other day, and the old post office is now Islington Square, and I didn't even realise it was like that. It's crazy.
And the challenge you've got living in Islington, to give you, your average house price is 290,000. You've got absolutely no chance unless you're on £80,000 a week and living in Islington, and there is a challenge. And we're not like other London boroughs. You've got literally rich and poor people living side by side. It's not Haringey, where you've got the Crouch End, which is the nice part, but all my mates live in Northumberland Park, the back of Tottenham. So you've got that part, and that's what's really important, is to bridge that gap. You've also got lots of people that come in to London and they love living in Islington because it's not too close, it's not too far out. And then you've got that kind of challenge. So we've got that. So we're doing a lot. We do a lot with young people in terms of getting employment. And the last COVID, we anticipate that 40% of people lost their jobs to young people. So we've got to do a lot in terms of aspirations, in terms of getting people back into work, in terms of supporting people. So we were doing that, doing recruitment fairs, talking to people. That's why I have an employment agency in here, because one of the biggest challenges is affordable childcare and employment queues. You can't get people out of the poverty trap unless they've got jobs. So, and what we don't want to do, which is happening currently at the moment, is that more young people are being sucked into gangs. And as you live in Barnsbury, you've got EC1, you've got Caledonian Roads, so you know. They don't even know why they're fighting, but they fight. They just don't like those people from EC1, and you say, why don't you? I do a lot with young people in terms of that, and I sort of Safe Neighbourhood Board, and obviously you know the thing that happened on Elthorn recently. But we've got to inspire people, especially young people, to go after their dreams, because we've got some of the most fantastic arts, craft and support in Islington. Much better than other London boroughs, and much better from where I live, which is East London. So I really understand when you talk about young people, because when we're looking for jobs and you're earning £600 a week, and then your rent's they're asking for a flat across the road, £1,900 what chance have people got? So.
You talked a little bit about your mum being your biggest inspiration. Is there anybody else who inspires you?
Yeah, well, my mum, that's kind of like why I left my job 11 years ago, because my mum died and I thought I can't do this job because it was a long job. So I thought I wanted to do something. It just gave me the necessary bit to just have the break. I wasn't interested in money, I just needed to get out. So I thought I'm going to come and do a job working in the community, which is a completely different culture shock from where I was working with civil servants, but it was great. In terms of inspiration, I think everybody that works and succeeds and doesn't duck and dive is an inspiration to me. I've got people here that make me feel very humble, because they will come in, they will do their job, they don't want to rock the boat, and they work incredibly hard. And I think that inspires me, and we get people that are coming in that are working using our food bank, but they will do their best. And I think that's all you can ask for people. We even got some young people, you know, I've got a couple of young people that live next door that work in Sainsbury's, but the temptation to go with their mates and earn £500 a week as opposed to £500 a month is a big inspiration, and they should be, and I'm very proud that they haven't gone down that trajectory. But as I said, it's really challenging being a young person around here. It's really challenging being being a person living in Islington, because the life expectancy is less than any other part of London borough. Yeah, and we've got some real challenges. We've got high child poverty. We've got a high suicide rate for people under 25 in the country. So there's lots of things that people don't know. But in terms of employment, and that's what we really need to do. We're the fourth largest employer in London, and we need to get more local people to say that they can do more than work in JD Sports or go in a gym. So that's why, you know, I do a lot more in schools about raising aspirations, and a lot more in the local colleges, in letting people know that there's much more out there than simply Islington.
Thanks so much for coming to speak to me today. It's been really interesting.
Okay, thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please like, comment and subscribe for more content just like this.